And which microphone is on?
Testing, testing, testing. I think this one like barely works. Testing, testing. Yeah, this one. Yeah. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, I think it works. It's just a lot lower. Whoever's the loudest one can probably give that one. Mhm. Hello, hello.
All right, so you got this one up? Is
Um,
it running off the dongle or is it on the thing?
it's running off of the
Okay.
thumb drive.
Sounds good. Is there a clicker? Or are we
No,
just using this?
not that I know of.
Thank you.
So good to see you.
Yes, it's nice to see you.
So no, I don't think so.
Okay. Let's see.
Matt Lawfer brought his own for the last presentation, but yeah, I don't think that's it.
Do you know how we can see like the notes on here and the presentation on there?
I think it's possible. I'll have to change how the
Show presenter view.
display set up. Possibly.
I think I just did it.
Oh, you did it. Oh, you don't need me.
I don't even know what I did, but I did it.
Perfect.
Perfect. Great. And then we
Okay.
can just use the arrow keys. Okay. Fantastic.
Gotcha.
Got it all worked out. Thank you for your help.
Yeah, so do you need me to do like a start off when the session
Have you
starts?
been doing that?
That's what
I'm
I've been doing?
Yes, you can do that.
Okay,
I'll let
cool.
you continue doing
It'll be
that.
super
I
simple.
don't
I'll
want to
do
take your job away.
It's fine. It'll be like a real simple, like this is the right room, here's the QR code, and then I'll hand it off to you.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
And then I'll turn this on, or you'll turn it on.
Sure. Yeah, I'll turn it on and get started.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
I have to remember that that's the good one, so yeah.
That's a
turn
good
it
one.
Gotcha,
I'm
gotcha.
switching you up last minute here. I'm sorry.
Keep me on my toes, I need a little.
Yes, I'm trying. It's the last session.
Yeah.
We'll get a little sleepy.
Gotta wake everybody up a little bit.
Yeah.
That lunch starts settling in.
Right. Exactly. Yes. They have the cookies and whatever else was in there. I don't know. I got in there late, so I'm like,
Yeah, I haven't even been to the snack room. I should have been.
I was like, man, I want a chocolate chip cookie. I'm just gonna go in there and see if there's one. Like in and out.
Oh, like everybody kind of sit on the.
Yeah, we had 4 seats, so yeah, it's fine. This is a smaller room.
Two of us could sit like this.
Crisscross applesauce.
I think we're gonna sit over here.
I didn't get to choose the seating options. But nobody. There.
We talked about having to sit there and then
Y'all sit here.
Like the principal.
Have you got stats this year?
Huh?
Have you got statistics?
I don't have all the stats, but I got one. Freedom on top of it.
Have you compared last year to this year? Have they improved at all?
Actually, some things have.
They tend to.
Numbers and number demos per product.
Right, you back ready? He's at 2:30 right now.
Is it 2:30?
Just about.
The number of addendum periods?
Well, I'll put a slide like this. Every 10 products. 5-year period.
Yeah. Good to go? All right, everybody, it's about 2:30, so we're going to get started. This is room 8, where we're doing the submitting a complete PS&E package. We have the QR code for the PDHs up here up front, and we'll also present it at the end of the presentation. And now I'll be handing it off to Katrina.
Thank you. All right. Hello. Can you all hear me? Great. You guys enjoying yourself so far? Yeah. Are you excited about the last one? Are you bummed? All right. So I have the great honor to speak with 3 other of my colleagues. I've got Tasha White here, Ken Kennedy, and Jeff Wren. We'll all be talking about PS&E and how you can submit a successful PS&E package. So I hope you're excited. We are excited to have this conversation with y'all. All right, so we do not have Slido on this one, but I will let you know what the question was. It was, when does preparation for a quality PS&E start? Does anyone want to take a shot at when that does? Just shout it out. Too many things. Yes. Okay. So when the project starts, assembling a good PS&E package starts with understanding why you need the project and what problem that project is going to solve. This leads into having a good purpose and need, coordinating and communicating with stakeholders during environmental decision-making process, also having good design assumptions, coordinating early with utilities and right-of-way, developing and maintaining realistic schedules, and of course, producing high-quality deliverables throughout project delivery so that when we get to PS&E, we are not scrambling to complete everything. So who likes to scramble? Anyone? Who doesn't like to scramble? Yes, I don't like to scramble either. One thing I had asked the first group that we did this in front of was, how many have submitted a PS&E in the last year, a PS&E package? Okay, a few of you. How many are going to be submitting a PS&E package this coming year? Okay, good. Fantastic. All right. So just a bit of an outline of what we're going to cover today, why a complete PS&E package is important, also what's included in that package, the project manager role, common issues that we've been seeing with submittals, some tools and guidance that can assist you, some missing items from contract time, Ken Kennedy will go over that, and some additional information on specifications and addendums. That'll be Jeff Wren's part. All right, so we're going to start with why a complete package is important. First, I wanted to talk a little bit about what a PS&E package is. So a PS&E package is a compilation of all pre-construction deliverables and decisions. It is also the basis for the development of the documents that will be provided to construction contractors for bidding purposes. So why is this important? First of all, the department does expect timely and complete high-quality PS&E packages to be turned in. Ron Davenport issued a memo back in November of 2023 stating that PS&E packages must be 100% complete and delivered by close of business no later than the PS&E due date, as shown on the 12-month let list, or as calculated through the project flowchart generator. This includes trying to submit one package, not multiple packages. I always think of Amazon with multiple packages when it asks you if you're ordering multiple things, if you want it in one package or multiple packages. Usually I want it right away, but for PS&E purposes, one package is desired. For those of you who were here yesterday, Jamie Bird said something that I really appreciated. He said, don't turn an incomplete PS&E package. It does not go well. And so keep that in mind. So why is it important? Why is a complete PS&E package important? It enables contract standards to develop a quality contract bid proposal to prospective contractors to submit bids on. Late and incomplete PS&E packages jeopardize their review process and their ability to develop a quality contract bid proposal. So poor quality and incomplete PS&E packages also jeopardize our letting times. It also increases our risk for contractors to submit higher bids, and it increases our risk for addendums and change orders during construction. So thorough and well-coordinated PS&E packages provide the necessary information to reduce and address construction risk allowing the department to receive good quality bids, also to execute a contract successfully, and to construct a project with minimal revisions and claims. I don't think any of us like getting claims on construction projects. They're very costly and timely. All right, so what's included in a PS&E package? There are all kinds of things, such as plans, specifications, estimates, certifications, agreements, regulatory approvals, environmental document, design exceptions. I think you all get the picture. There's a lot of things included in that package. So we've developed a handy tool to help you know what needs to be included in that PS&E package. It's called the PS&E checklist. This PS&E checklist came out late last year, in the fall of 2023. It wasn't discussed at last year's pre-construction workshop because it wasn't available. So this checklist, the intent for having that checklist is to allow project managers, both at NCDOT and at firms, to know what needs to be submitted on the PS&E date and also where it should be placed on the project's pre-construction site. It's a living document. It helps, project managers can use it to track where the project team is at with each one of those deliverables. And also we do recommend that they start using this PS&E checklist around the 15-month meeting timeframe when you're getting ready for that meeting. Just a reminder that 15-month meeting is the first formal touch point that you're going to be moving forward towards letting. The goal of that meeting is to determine if your project is ready to go on the 12-month let list. So this checklist, as well as the 15-month meeting questions that are sent out, can help the project managers be ready for that meeting. Another intent of this tool is to communicate to contract standards on what is included in the PS&E submittal package. Contract standards does use this checklist to make sure everything's included, and they use it to check in the project. If there's missing and incomplete items, they will reach out to that DOT project manager and say, hey, this PS&E checklist is missing this. Where is this? So keep that in mind. All right. So November 7th, 2023, a memo was issued. I kind of mentioned that before, but I was kind of like trying to get you like a cliffhanger. Anyways, so on November 7th, 2023, Ron Davenport sent out a memo regarding the 100% PS&E package. And it states in there that the PS&E checklist is required as part of the submittal for centrally let projects. It's also a best practice for division projects. So I'm going to take the next couple minutes and the next couple slides to walk through the different sections of the PS&E checklist. What you see on the screen right now is the top part of the checklist, and it's general project information, which is used to inform contract standards of general information on the project, as well as the points of contact needed. We've got the NCDOT project manager on there, and then if your project is not done internally and you've got a firm on it, we want the firm project manager on there as well. As a reminder, this checklist must be completely filled out at turn-in. If a checkbox or a line is blank, contract standard sees that as missing or incomplete, and they're going to contact the NCDOT project manager. All right, so the next section of the checklist is key documents. This section lists the deliverables that should be denoted as key documents uploaded to the project's pre-construction site. These are agreements, certifications, regulatory approvals, and permits. You've got your signed environmental document on there and the environmental consultation and any design exceptions that you might have in the traffic forecast. There's a column, there's two columns, but one of the columns is to indicate whether it's complete or not applicable for the project. And then the column on the far right over here is an area where the project manager can use that to track any updates that they might have or keep the status and track where that deliverable is. They can also put comments in there that they might think would be helpful for contract standards. So here's an example of one that is filled out. Some best practices is to indicate whether it's complete or not applicable. Each line should have one of those boxes checked. Also tracking your status in the comments box. Pitfalls to avoid, blank boxes in each one of those lines. All right, page 2 of the checklist focuses on final plan sets, special provisions, and quantities. On the far left, there is a box to indicate if a specific plan set is not applicable to a project. The third and fourth column is shown as accepting DOT subject matter expert and the date the plan set was accepted. These are two critical items to make sure are filled in. Please pay, can't talk, bless you. Please pay close attention to the third column that's circled in green. That states accepting DOT subject matter expert. This must be an NCDOT employee who's responsible for ensuring the completeness and the acceptance of the work. So this cannot be a GESC. A GESC can review the plans, but NCDOT personnel must take responsibility for ensuring they agree with that review. So if contract standards notices an issue or has questions or concerns about one of the plan sets, they will be contacting the NCDOT subject matter expert that's listed on this sheet. Here's an example of one of the sheets here filled out. Some best practices on here. Make sure you're listing that NCDOT subject matter expert and you're listing the date that the plan set was accepted. Also on the far right is the quantities section. Check either the pick tool or the Ashtoware tool should be selected, and you should not have both of those boxes selected for one plan set or one plan set. So make sure just one of those is filled out. There is a note on the bottom that y'all can't read down here that states that, but there's one thing I wanted to point out. Some pitfalls to avoid. Your plan checkbox is marked, but you don't have an acceptor or a date included in that. And also, if you have incomplete checkboxes for plan sets that you do have on your project. Okay, so the next section focuses on correspondence. These deliverables should be uploaded to the LETPREP final plans library in a correspondence docuset on the project's pre-construction site. This information that I just kind of read out is up on the top above the table, so it tells you exactly where you can put that. So these are items like your approved design criteria, your field inspections, your final pavement designs, your geotech recs, those kind of items. Again, here's an example of one that's filled out. Please make sure that you have either the completed or the not applicable column filled out for each of the deliverables. And if it's helpful, you can include a status. The next section is the roadway supporting documents. These deliverables should be uploaded to the LETPREP folder with the final plans library in a roadway supporting documents docuset on the project's pre-construction site. These are things like your calculations of quantities, earthwork log files, your final estimate, and the very last thing listed there is this PS&E checklist. So they do want to see this uploaded in the roadway supporting documents, and so make sure that you include this completed checklist in there. Here's an example of this one filled out. Again, best practices, making sure you put the right files in the right library in the docuset, and then something to avoid is not denoting whether a deliverable is complete or not applicable. All right, hang in there with me. We're almost done with the checklist. It looks a lot better in person than like when I'm going through slides. It's really not that long. So we do have a section on intermediate contract times. And in this section, you can list what ICTs you have associated with your transportation management plans, your signal plans, and your ITS plans. And Ken will go over ITS items a little bit further down in the presentation. But the other box that you see in there is for additional information that is entered in other tools, such as your project commitments. And also, it's helpful to indicate if you have any force account signing items on the project. So just indicating if you have those items on your project is helpful and required to be filled out. Here's an example of one filled out for that section. The last section in the PS&E checklist is incomplete items at PS&E turn-in. This is an area where you can indicate incomplete items and when they will be completed. Additionally, what actions need to take place and when that person is going to be taking those actions. But I do want to remind you that we are expecting that everything is turned in. That is the goal. The goal is to have everything turned in at PS&E date. But understanding that some things might, this is there to help communicate that. All right, so I'm going to switch over to the project management role now, at least as it relates to PS&E getting to PS&E. So the project manager's role as it pertains to PS&E is to lead teams through PS&E. They are the primary contact, and they are responsible for guiding teams through the obstacles and challenges associated with delivering a complete PS&E package on time. That includes driving coordination, making sure they're coordinating with all the team members, making sure all the appropriate reviews are occurring and they're occurring in a timely manner, and then having timely responses to comments and questions. This is before PS&E and also after PS&E. If you turn in a package and then contract standards comes back and has comments or questions, they do need a timely response back. So that's very important. Another item is timely communication on your key dates, all your action items, decisions, and modifications that might occur on your project to all the team members. One decision that happens on, or modification that might happen on one area of your project may also impact other disciplines. So keep that in mind, that all your team members should know about some modifications that occur on your project. And keeping up on action items and following up with them. Another item has relating to your monitoring your project schedule. Make sure you have a realistic schedule when you get started on a project, and then continue to monitor as you progress through that project. Know your critical path, right-of-way, utilities, permitting. Those are common things that can impact your critical path. They're often on the critical path. And so be proactive with those items. Do frequent check-ins so that you know what the status is and can stay on top of it. Also, make sure you have the right predecessors and successors tied to your deliverables and activities, and then make sure the PS&E date is on your schedule. Again, last thing I want to say on this is if you're not actively managing a project, it can get away from you, and you can be scrambling at the end. And I think kind of talked about scrambling. No one here seems to like to scramble, so try to avoid that and be proactive. I'm sorry about the green. It is a little hard to see, but just a few best practices and common pitfalls for project managers to try to ensure a quality PS&E package is submitted. Realistic schedule, again, make sure you have that PS&E turn-in as a milestone on your schedule and that you have things tied to that. The let date's okay to have on there, but that PS&E date is really when things should be completed. Also have a reasonable time for right-of-way acquisition, utility relocation, and permitting. If you, when you're reviewing things, make sure you have that NCDOT review time on your schedule, so you're accounting for that. And if you have large submittals that you think might need a second review, go ahead and include that on your schedule. It's always easier to take it off than try to build in more time for that. But be thoughtful about when you might need that. Also, allow adequate time for your 100% reviews. If you think you're going to need 4 weeks to review so that NCDOT can review it and then allow the firm or whoever is working on the plans and the design and deliverables, then then allow some additional time for them to review it and to update the plans and stuff like that so that you can have a good quality PS&E submittal. So if you have to push that submittal 4 weeks early, then talk to your team and discuss doing that. Another item is establishing early if your project is going to have a 4-week ad or an 8-week advertisement. 8-week advertisements are going to have to be turned in 4 weeks earlier than your 4-week advertisements. So keep that in mind. You don't want to be caught at the end and go, oh, we're doing an 8-week ad. PS&E just got moved up 4 weeks. So that's never a good feeling. So try to avoid that. Use your PS&E checklist as a living document. It's there for you to help make sure you've got everything that you need. Also, make sure you're doing your quality control and quality assurance reviews and that they're happening. Don't just be checking those boxes. That's really easy to do. Actually look at it and make sure you're doing a good quality review on it. Timely resolution of issues and questions. Again, before and after PS&E submittal, it's very important to be following up on any of those action items that are out there, and if you have any issues and things that need to be resolved before going or before contract standards to move forward with a advertisement. Some pitfalls to avoid: scheduling to complete your project delivery to let rather than the PS&E date. Please try to keep that to the PS&E date. Also, cutting reviews and deliverables. Completion dates down to the wire. I don't think any of us like that when that happens, so try to make sure you're planning for reviews in an appropriate way. Also, skipping the 100% plan submittal and review, that doesn't seem to work out too well, at least not in my experience, so, and not in Jamie Bird's, as he said yesterday, so try to avoid that. Rushing quality reviews, and then next one has to do with special provisions. If you have pay items with an SP next to them, that's a good indicator you're going to need a special provision associated with that, so just check it. Something easy to look for. And finally, we want to make sure we have good designs. They're complete when we submit them. It is not good practice to design through addendums. It's very costly. It's not a good way to do it. Our goal should be 0 addendums, so let's try to strive for that. So final key things that if I could just have you walk away with, these are kind of the summary things that I thought would be good. So some key things to success: build and update it, a realistic schedule throughout project delivery as you're delivering that project. Also include the PS&E date on the schedule. I know I've said that several times. I think it's very important. And then allow adequate time for quality reviews. And finally, be accountable and hold your teammates accountable. We're all in this together to deliver a project. I think that's what we really want. We're here to serve the public and give them a good project. So communicate what needs to be done, who's going to do it, when they're going to do it, and then follow up. All right, so I'm going to pass it over to Tasha. If you could give her just a warm welcome. She's going to talk a little bit about common issues with submittals.
Joy, this is what happens when you switch rooms, and all the things you had in the other room just disappear. All right, so looking around, I have my readers on, so I can't see as clear in the back, but I'm not seeing as many people as I saw earlier today in the room, but I'm still going to give the same 2 caveats. One, a lot of what you're going to hear me talk about are roadway design items, and the reality is when it gets to plan checking, that's a large part of their focus. They do look at all the plans and everything together, but a large part of their focus is roadway design. The second thing is that this is a space that you're going to see things on the slides, and a bunch of you are going to say, I know that, right? I already know that. Why am I here today? What's actually happening, though, is when we get to plan checking, these are the comments that are coming up. We did an audit of several months' worth of final plan comments, and so here's going to be some common themes. So even though I know you know it, and you know it, just kind of take it in and feel free to share it with your staff and just consider it as you go through. So again, we don't have Slido, but the first question that I had was, what generates the most comments from Plan Checking's team on a PS&E? Any guesses? Okay, I hear undercut. Anything else? Quantities. You're not supposed to answer this, sir. Okay. Noted. All right. So these are common things. Earthwork. This first slide is really dealing with geotech. First thing, make sure that you're reviewing all of the geotech recommendations. What you see here are the four main ones that come: roadway, pavement design investigation, structure, retaining walls. But the top two are the ones when you're putting together that, especially that roadway packet, that you need to make sure you're going through and reading it. The roadway items tend to show up. I know the geotech report always has quantities in it at the end, but for some reason, the pavement design investigation quantities seem to be missing on a regular basis. So just make sure you're reviewing both of those. So how are the quantities presented? You have contingency quantities, and make sure when you're going through the report that you're looking at every single section. Again, I know that there are tables in the back of the report, but it doesn't hurt to go through the report yourself and make sure that everything is consistent. But then you also have your station-to-station quantities. And those are things that, again, sometimes can get missing. But what I would really note for a roadway designer especially is don't 100% rely on what's in the geotech tables. You are supposed to go through and actually do the earthwork runs and pull that information out. If you see large inconsistencies with what you're seeing in the geotech report, please coordinate with your geotech engineer and ensure what is right or what's the path forward. 9 times out of 10, the conclusion will be, hey, go with the earthwork runs, but don't just let it pass you by. They're huge discrepancies. Another thing you'll see in the report is rock. There may be rock on a lot of projects, but it's when our work encounters that rock that's important. What you also note in there is how to treat the rock. A lot of times it may be a 1-to-1 ratio, but sometimes you may have a swell factor that you need to apply. And so again, just making sure you're looking at that. And then another important thing is to ensure that the geotech pay items are shown correctly in the plans. And I've noted here section 13.8, and it's really 13.8 and 13.9. It's an older version. Both of those sections give you like profiles and cross sections, what to show, what not to show. Just so you know, like there were sessions at 1 o'clock, and the Down to Earth with Geotech was one that Matt Alexander did. All of these are being recorded, and you'll get the slides, and they'll be put up to the pre-construction site. So if you missed that earlier today, please go back and check on that. Earthwork, part 2. Align your earthwork with your construction phasing in the TMPs. Make sure that you're coordinating with your work zone traffic control engineer if you're the roadway designer. Make sure that I know at the beginning, you kind of just have an outline of this is how we think we're going to deliver the project, but as that gets more refined, the roadway design manual will tell you every 3,000 feet, before and into the bridge, here are places where you need to cut it. But what we're hearing from our construction folks, and I think Ken went to the in the field session that was just before this, and heard the same thing. Sometimes they're running into situations where, for example, they have a waste project. But when you actually break it down by phasing, they may have one phase that they actually need borrow. And they have to figure out, do I have to go purchase borrow? Can we stockpile something? That's what they need to know in advance, and they need it in the contract. They don't want to have to go and have that as a supplemental to their contract later. It's usually very cumbersome and very painful and costly as well. Something else that often gets confused is shoulder borrow versus shoulder material. The way that it's presented in the roadway design manual is material for shoulder construction, but if you read that paragraph or two, it'll actually explain it a little bit more. So shoulder material is not an individual pay item. You'll find it on borrow projects with graded shoulders, not curb and gutter, not trench sections. And you're going to see it in the embankment section for your earthwork runs. And you'll have the shrinkage factor applied to it as well. Shoulder borrow, you find that on waste projects. It's suitable material, and it's actually shown at the very bottom of your summary. If you have any questions, again, feel free to reference the roadway design manual. I have little boxes in the top. I'm not going to read all of those. I skipped past the first one. But make sure you're kind of checking that out. I'm going to hit on it at the end in general comments. The last thing, pavement structure volumes. This is something that I was talking to someone in construction. I was like, do y'all really need that? Do you really? We're asking ourselves questions a lot, like, is this something that continues to be needed? The answer was yes. Contract standards doesn't need it, but our construction folks do. It allows them to easily assess what's happening in the field, and when they look at the final grading for excavation, if they haven't surveyed it before the pavement goes down, they have an easy way to quantify it. So yes, it's still needed. The next item is drainage. I will acknowledge that our hydraulic folks should be producing these, and also that the way the automated drainage summary works is if you identify it correctly in CAD, it will come in correctly in the drainage summary. What seems to be happening, though, is that we're still having instances where the plans are not matching up with what's in the summary, which tells me that there probably been some revisions at some point. They don't run the automated drainage summary twice, right? So first thing to think about, make sure you're identifying the correct tier. That's going to be found on your title sheet. Basically, you have regional versus statewide. I've given you the section in the roadway design manual 13.2.6 that actually tells you the difference. But basically, statewide are interstate projects or projects on a strategic highway corridor. The difference between the two is a pay item. Statewide tier, you're going to pay for side drain pipe. And on your regional, sub-regional tier, you're going to pay for drainage pipe. Verify grade selection. Another area that just sometimes gets to be a little bit mixed up. I think about catch basins. You have E, F, and G grades. You can go to the standard drawings, and that's a great visual picture of what's the correct grade to select. Just remember that it's in the direction of traffic when you look at those. Thinking about junction boxes, make sure you're paying for manholes and the covers. And also, I think I have here as an example, narrow slot grates. This is something that sometimes can get missed. Narrow slot grates are intended for use in areas where you anticipate pedestrians or bicyclists. And it doesn't matter if it's in the ditch or if it's up on the roadway. I had a project once that we went all the way through, probably to right-of-way, and looked, and I was like, why do we have wide slot grates? And I'm like, oh, it's where it's control of access. It was actually partial control of access, which means you still have the potential for accessibility for pedestrians. And so remember, if it's full control of access, wide slot grates are fine. If there's a potential, and we basically define that as everything else, narrow slot grates. The hydro engineer had to go back and do a lot more calculations because all of a sudden his flows were very different. Identifying traffic bearing boxes. That's defined as a box that is within 4 feet of the edge of travelway and not covered by a monolithic island, right? And so just being mindful of where you have traffic bearing boxes. I skipped extra depth, making sure that you're paying for that correctly. Again, these are just common issues that come up. Welded steel installation, identifying what percentage in soil and out of soil. You could easily identify 50-50. You can talk to your geotech engineer to see, are the soils going to skew us more towards a 70-30 or a 60-40? The main point is that they have a pay item for both, right? That's the key. And also verifying the pipe thickness. Berm ditch outlets, you'll see them in the plans, you'll see them in the summaries, but they're not pay items. The actual pay item is for paved ditch. So make sure you're paying for the paved ditch that comes into those BDOs. And then the last thing I have on this slide are retention basins. We used to be able to just have a lump sum payment. It was great, right? You just do one retention basin and you can move on. That is no longer the case. You need to pay for those by individual pay items. Just a note that I have up here in blue just says make sure that the pay items shown on the plans are in the summary and that the totals in the summary match what's in the estimate. Consistency is very important. Guardrail and guide rail and barrier. Basic things here, just making sure you're identifying the warrant point by station. Make sure you're doing it on the approach and the trailing end. Again, this is a situation where you're looking at the direction of travel and not necessarily the alignment as it's going up station. Show the correct flare rates. Show the correct anchor units for your situation, and also making sure you're accounting for the deductions for those using the correct length. The last thing I will say is verify the placement in the plans align with what we have in the standard drawings. Next, we have temporary designs. Kind of just lump this all together. It touches on some of the points we've already been through, but this is specific for temporary designs. When you have a temporary alignment, you must have a typical section. That typical section needs to show the pavement design. So I would encourage you, if you recognize that you're going to have a temporary alignment, request that as soon as possible from pavement design, giving them all the information that they need in order to make that determination. And then also paying for those quantities for placement and removal per the specifications. Make sure that you are showing the temporary guardrail on the summary. Again, another space where we're just not getting quite there. All of the permanent guardrail shows up, but those guardrail that are being placed in temporary conditions often are not. This does not require removal, and so just keep that in mind. Showing and paying for temporary drainage. I know that Matt Lawford did a session at 1 o'clock. Again, another one to go back and look at if you did not see it. Talking about moving water and traffic through a work zone. There have been some issues of late in terms of ensuring that the water can actually go where it needs to go. And so he recognized that and kind of pulled together work zone. And I know Mike was in there as well. And so it's just something good to go back and look at. But make sure you're paying for placement and removal. And then temporary steel plates. If you need those in those conditions, making sure you're identifying and paying for those. Earthwork. If you're putting dirt in for a detour and the intent is to take it out, make sure that you're taking it out in your earthwork as well. And finally, temporary shoring, making sure that's showing in the roadway design plans. Most of the time, that's going to be requested by your work zone traffic control engineer. It also could be requested by structures. There are very few times where a roadway designer will do it. And so look at section 5.5.5 in the roadway design manual to kind of see how to handle that. And making sure that you're including the appropriate shoring details. Geotech has a memo that was dated January 17, 2007, and it gives you those particulars. And just some general things to think about. Using the correct calculation of quantity sheets. Those sheets are on Contract Standards website. By and large, they probably haven't changed, but I know, like, I have a bad habit. You take something from an old project and you pull it forward because, like, I've already got it. I'll just use it again. And that's fine, but make sure that the methodology is the same and actually make sure that you're removing any old information from the previous project. Verifying that all the pay items totals are based on the most recent recommendations. We all experience design revisions on projects, right-of-way revisions, things that may change the nature of what another unit's recommendations may be, or through the process, especially if a project has gone on for a while, there may be different thought processes in terms of how they want to handle soil, for example. Your pavement designs may change. Make sure you're using the most recent recs. Verify that the pay items are being used, the correct pay items. Again, Contract Standards has their pay item list online. If you think you know what it is, like, easy to go in these days and type it and search for it and see, is that pay item really there or has it changed? Verifying the totals and the summaries and the calculation of quantity sheets match what's in the estimate. I've mentioned that before. By and large, a lot of what I see when I do the audit is this. There's not consistency between what's in the plans and the summaries, and not consistency between how the summaries are generated, the totals, and the estimate. You can save yourself a lot of comments by just doing this simple step. If you're the checker, I have a friend, and he's like, computed by, check by. It's like, Tasha, that's what we are. We were computed by, check by. You remember? It's like, yes, I remember. If you're the checker, verify the methodology for computation as well as the numbers. Someone may have computed and done math correctly, but if the methodology isn't correct, then the number is no longer valid. So have that in your thought process. Providing cross-reference to details or another discipline's plans can make it very easy for not only the plan checker, but the contractor to be able to reference and go, okay, I know I need to go here in order to find this information. Similarly, just verifying that the design intent between the two sets of plans are the same and that you're capturing all the quantities associated with it. The last thing I will say here is become familiar with the specifications. A lot of times we focus on roadway design manual, or we'll focus on the standard drawings, but the specifications actually tell you exactly how something should be paid for, gives you the pay items and how to do it. And so if all else fails, becoming familiar with the specs can be a very great thing. I'm flying through this, y'all, because we did this in an hour and 15 this morning. Now we've got an hour, so hope you bear with me. The last thing, I have 4 more slides. 3 of them are going to be on tools and guidance, just to let you know where we are today. So we have taken the 2015 roadway consultant engineering guidelines that people were like, okay, this is it. This is how we're going to deliver. This is what we have at every single stage. We have updated that to align with the PDN deliverables. We've also pushed that information into the roadway design manual in Chapter 13 at the end. That's the plan prep chapter. It gives you some good information on naming conventions, file management, electronic deliverables. Most of all, it aligns with the PDN, right? So DRPS, you can go and look exactly what you need to provide there. The next thing we have is that Sherry is not in here, but Sherry Calhoun spent some time with contract standards and helped them to update their 2018 final plans checklist into a final plans checklist for 2024. You'll see here it's identified as stage 4. It'll be 4 CS1. It is not live as of last night, so we're hoping in the next day or two. We've got a couple of IT hurdles that they're trying to get through. But yeah, contract standards, this is now going to be their final plans checklist. So as soon as that comes out, we'll get information. Please use this moving forward. It'll also be in the same location where the 2018 was. So if you've got that bookmark, it'll take you to the same page. The last thing is that, again, through this audit, we identified a lot of the things I'm talking about today. We identified to try and create little short training videos. I was talking to Art yesterday, Art McMillan, and he was like, I'm coming to your session. And I was like, Art, you know this already. And he was like, I tell people all the time, have you read the roadway design manual? And I'm like, yep, you're right. But I think we all recognize that people take in information in different ways, right? And so we thought maybe videos, little short snippets would help people, like, you know what, I think I have this situation. Let me go and watch this video. 10 minutes of my time, I'm done, right? And so we're hoping that this is going to be very advantageous. The first module is the 1A sheet creation. That is in final production. We're waiting for a final version of it, so hopefully we'll get that this month. They've already moved into geotech. What's cool about this is we have someone who knows absolutely nothing about what we do as the folks producing it, and so they're kind of coming at it with a fresh eye and asking questions. And so, again, we're hoping that it's going to be very advantageous to you and your staff. Last slide. So I was in church a couple of weeks ago, and I was doing projections, so I had to pay attention to the pastor. And he said this: it should never be about the tools. It should be about the message. And I was like, man, that's good. I was like, I need to write that down because that fits perfectly with my presentation. We have a lot of tools. We have checklists for every stage of the PDN, every discipline. We updated the final plans checklist. We updated the submittal guidelines. Every unit has their own guidelines. The reality is that this applies not just to roadway design, it applies to everything, right? And so I was like, yeah, the message. The message for us is that the PS is the PS&E document. It communicates the design intent to the contractor, right? So I was going to steal it, and I was like, no, let me just go ahead and just give it credit for it. But it said, I changed it to this. It should never be about the tools. It's about a quality advertisement proposal for construction. The tools just help us achieve the goal. The goal is a quality PS&E document. And with that, I'm finished. I'll turn it over to Mr. Kennedy.
Okay, we had a clicker last time. Just tap it.
The arrows.
Oh, the arrows.
They didn't give me a clicker for y'all.
Oh, okay. No worries. Okay. Well, one of the most commonly overlooked aspects of plan preparation is the calculation of contract time. Contract time is provided in the proposal, so it's calculated once the project has been completely reviewed by the plan checking section. So if you've turned in a project and it's been a couple weeks, you haven't heard anything from plan checking, and you get a call out of the blue from someone, that's usually me. And it's a last minute, have you considered this? We need something to get us over that hurdle. And it varies from project to project because almost anything can have an impact on contract time, anything that impacts construction. Luckily, if you've been attending any sessions today or yesterday, you've been hearing a lot of what I'm going to talk about. So I'm just going to ask a lot of questions in hopes that while you're planning and designing, that you just consider the whole project, and as Division 9 said yesterday, that you keep the end in mind. So I think Joshua, you just said it, or Katrina, just once a project's 100% complete, it still needs to be reviewed to ensure that the various components work together. So 3 common missing items that you needed for contract time are utility relocations provided by the UBO special provision, moratoria considerations provided by the permits, and then quantity breakdowns for intermediate contract times or phasing. The UBO special provision is part of the proposal, and as part of the proposal, keep in mind the appropriate audience, and that are the contractors who are looking to bid on the job. Typically, a contractor will only care about 3 things. 1, are the utilities out of my way? 2, if not, when will the utilities be out of my way? And 3, could you please provide me some contact information just in case a utility is disturbed? So if your special provision is 3 pages long and only describes 2 utilities, you're probably using excessive language that the contractor is just going to overlook. The contractor really just wants to know, is Duke Energy gone? What about the other utilities that were piggybacking? Are they also out of the way? An exception to this is notification statements. Now, sometimes a utility requires action by the contractor. And for instance, say a utility needs the slope or the side of the road be graded before they put their poles in the ground. Then a statement would need to be included that lets the contractor know that, hey, once I've put in the pole, or I'm sorry, once I've put in the grade, I need to notify the utilities. And then in turn, I need to know how long the utilities will be on site so I can plan my work effectively. Now, the UBO special provision has a date in the bottom left corner. So if you see that your special provision is 3 months old, have you reached out to your utility coordinator to ensure that the utilities are on track or that they did finish like they were supposed to? And if not, how are you sure the SP on SharePoint accurately represents the site conditions? Switching to moratoria, they're presented by the permits. To draw more attention to the construction moratoria, a provision is placed in the general section of the proposal for each one. So the question to you is, are the permits in hand? If not, do you have an exception? And if the permits are not in hand, have you reached out to either ECAP or Division of Environmental staff to verify which moratoria are going to impact your project? So if you look at the picture of the sister bridge that was constructed, this bridge was about half a mile long. And step one was to cut down trees for a construction entrance. Well, typically a debt availability is 6 weeks after letting. So if you have a bat moratorium that prevents tree cutting from April 1st to October 15th, is the February letting a good choice? If you're nodding your head, you're wrong. It's a very bad choice. Maybe August to December was a better choice. Might be difficult to see, but it's got the marsh over to the side of the picture there. Does your project have a primary nursery moratorium that prevents in-water work, typically from February 15th through September 30th? So is your letting at the right time so that you're giving the contractor ample time to get their work done, to get out of the water so they don't become idle? Or have you provided enough time for them to acquire and place their cans so they can work out of the water? So for quantity breakdowns, we as a department, we have a responsibility to the public to construct projects in a reasonable amount of time. And these quantity breakdowns are necessary for intermediate contract times when two items might not work well together. And here's an example of what I mean. How often have you heard the phrase, "This project is critical"? Contractor must begin immediately, but we don't have all the right-of-way. As a project manager, have you taken the phasing provided by the TMP? Have you compared it to the right-of-way needs? So say that you got a year's worth of work in phase one, and you don't need the right-of-way until phase two. Right-of-way takes 6 months, no harm, no foul. But if it's reversed, well, now the contractor will become idle for 6 months. Building on that, have you looked at your earthwork in phase one versus phase two? What if all of a sudden you have a cut and the fill's on the other side? Well, where are you going to stockpile that? Was that a consideration? Another example would be, say you have a phased bridge and an in-work water moratorium. Have you considered how long phase one construction of the bridge will take, including the traffic shift, so that when the contractor reaches phase two, they don't become idle? Another example, one that's actually been improved upon recently, is ductile iron water lines. For a while, ductile iron had about a 50-week lead time and was causing a lot of havoc on projects. And have you reached out to Todd Whitting's group and just the materials and test? If you've got some special items, special pay items, the availability of those items. So, as an example, if the ductile iron was to increase to 6 months again, and you only need it on the left side of the project, but there's work on the right side, well, do you have enough work on the right side to make up that 6 months? So what information do you need for ICT breakdowns? Well, the problem is it varies from project to project. I have a very long laundry list: roadway pay items, structural pay items, utility pay items. The simplest terms, construction takes time, so anything that impacts construction will also impact contract time. I'm now going to turn the presentation over to Jeff Wren to speak about specifications and addendums.
Good afternoon. This is the last session and I'm the last speaker, so you'll be happy to know that my presentation only lasts about an hour. So I think I'd be speaking to an empty room. Last year's conference, Nicole Hackler and myself gave a presentation entitled Ingredients for a Quality 100% PS&E Package. I would encourage you to find it on YouTube and review it. It's still very relevant, and it's a good companion for today's presentation. If you happened to be in that presentation last year's pre-construction workshop, you know why her and I there baking a cake. If you don't know, you'll have to watch it and find out. You can contact our office if you want the link to that. The effects of a late, incomplete PS&E package, and Katrina touched on a couple of these I want to expand on. I think it's important to understand the detrimental effects of late and incomplete PS&E packages. And I'll just read some of these, but they lead to missed or incorrect pay items, provisions, and plan sheets, leaves you insufficient time to assemble proposal documents, curtails the ability to correct these problems that we find during the proposal development process, can lead to having incomplete or no information for scheduled committee meetings. Those committee meetings are like the goal-setting committee, the contract time committee, and these have to be held before advertisement to develop the contract time, develop goals. These are set meetings with standing committees that are required to meet for these projects. I think you can see by not having some of that information, it's practically impossible to have those meetings, which are completely necessary. Trying to play catch-up during proposal development greatly increases the possibility of errors in the advertisement, and these errors lead to addenda, and addenda should be the exception, not the rule. That's the one thing I want to stress to everyone in here. Addenda should be something that we want to avoid at all costs. Obviously, it's necessary from time to time. It is a tool, but we want to avoid as much as possible. Certainly on a situation like you see on the screen where you've got more addenda in a month than you do projects. So what kind of errors and oversights do incomplete PS&E packages give rise to? The ones you see on the screen in this chart are the most common prevalent addenda types we encounter. And these are, as you can see, these are based on 200 projects that were advertised through this period, August 22 through July 2024. Revising provisions 184 times in 200 projects. Adding a note 180 times. That could be on a note on the plans or a note to contractor in the proposal. Revising quantities 177 times. Completely deleting or adding a completely new pay item 131 times. Adding a provision, revising the detail. One thing I will point out on these stats, the note added 180 times. Not all the time, but a significant number of time. Adding a note is basically a Band-Aid for a project. We do that on projects that may have an error or we're incomplete or we missed something, and we have to add a note to sort of get us over the hump. So that many note added is not a great statistic. You can see I know it's too small to see these. If you're interested in knowing the actual specific reasons, I'd be glad to send this slide. If anybody emails me, I can send you the slide, and you can actually drill down and see the exact causes. This slide was in the presentation I referenced earlier last year, and Katrina's made a reference to this in her presentation when she talked about advertising through addendum. Planned addendum or advertisement through addendum is when we have elements of the project that we know will not be ready in time by the advertisement date. So we advertise a project we know is incomplete or with errors, and we have to correct it by addendum. Unfortunately, the presentation last year and this slide didn't have the desired effect because the past year this has become way too routine a practice. It's not unusual for us to get PS&E packages into Nicole's plan checking group, and a week or two later we'll receive a call or an email asking when do they need to deliver the rest of the PS&E package for us to get the addendum out. So we have situations where they're planning on us sending an addendum out before we can ever get the project advertised. That's happened, unfortunately, several times over the last year. We want to get away from that by getting the 100% PS&E package turned in by the turn-in date. This most often happens for projects coming in very late, many times lacking all the necessary components. I want to point out how tedious and exhaustive it is to have an advertisement PS&E package we're preparing, knowing that we're going to have an addendum PS&E package and keeping the pay items, the provisions, the plans separate because we can't advertise this project with plans that have pay items we're going to send out in the addendum. Send that, and contractors are looking at plans. Well, there's pay items not in here, or these pay items in here, there's nothing in the plans. So we need to keep that consistent. We're advertising knowing we're going to have a complete different set in advertising. I think you can understand or see or sense how difficult that is. Another point I want to touch on is the need to maintain consistency and uniformity in our PS&E packages, regardless who develops them, whether it's CSDU or division. The contracting industry has expressed a desire to see proposals that are more consistent throughout the state in regards to pay items, pay units, construction methods, etc., as well as the special provisions that are included in the proposal. Use established, vetted special provisions whenever possible. Reach out to my section, the proposal and specifications section of Contract Standards Development Unit, for a special provision if you think you need one, if you're unsure. If you, I'll point out we see a lot of proposals. We've got a vast library of provisions. We've seen a lot of situations throughout the state. You may have something new in your area of the state that they've done in another part of the state. Reach out to us. We may have seen it. Maybe we haven't, but it's a good chance we've encountered it before. The Division's contract liaison engineer, Alan Fowler, he's a good resource. I meant to put on this slide also Lisa Penny, the specifications engineer in my group. It's an excellent resource, maintains a library of provisions. We may have something that suits your needs. Reach out to her or Alan, our Division Contracts Liaison Engineer. Proposal developers should be using APA, the Automated Proposal Application. Lisa Penny, aforementioned spec engineer, she's the lead from our group for APA. You can contact her directly or reach out to me with any question you might have. I know we're short on time. I won't read through all this, but it's got the latest provisions in APA. It's got the reasons for use, so it'll help you decide whether to use that provision. There's a lot of good information. When it generates the proposal, it does it in a consistent format that's lined up correctly, that looks consistent with Contract Standard Development Unit's proposals. Currently, proposal engineers and consultants for divisions are using it. Local LGAs and design firms supporting proposal development pending use. The homepage includes instructions for APA permission rights to be able to get permission rights to use APA. That's on there. The application itself, provision links for 2018 and 2024. Special provisions, hopefully, knock on wood, we're getting hopefully through with 2018's projects. Pre-construction site has project-specific provisions using the templates and writer's guide, so it will look consistent with all proposals throughout the state what we're trying to get to. Instructions, writer's guide, templates, lineup sheets have a repository of provisions for designers not developing a proposal but supporting the proposal process. So a lot of information there for the APA. I think Lisa had a a booth yesterday, her and Carla from my staff, had a booth with APA. I don't know how many of y'all happened to go by there. Did anybody see that booth yesterday? Nobody? But please feel free to reach out. That's all I have. Here's the contact information if you need to reach me or any other panel, and that's all I have.
Alrighty, this is the contact information. I'm about to take this down and bring up the QR code for the PDHs if anybody needs this. But
I know we're at time. If anyone has any questions, just feel free to reach out to us after this. Unfortunately, we had a shorter time this hour than we did earlier, so.
Feel free to come up after the session. I wish you could get home. It's probably all.